we're
Try
out.
parodying one of my songs now, you stupid bastard.
Patrick disposes of the body and makes his way to call out.
Hey guys, my name's Dan, and today's reaction comes from Dead Meat. This is the American Psycho kill count. So when it comes to preparing for these particular videos, I do try to watch the movie beforehand, regardless of how many times I've seen it, just so the movie's fresh in my mind. And when it comes to a movie like American Psycho, a movie as popular as that, you'd think I would have seen it before, considering my love for all things horror, but nope. I've literally just come off my very first viewing of this movie, and I have many questions. Hopefully they get answered. I am more excited to learn more about the making of this movie, and also to see a brand new presenter on the kill count. I'm sure she's going to do absolutely amazing. So if you do enjoy other Dead Meat videos, I reacted to many, and I mean many of them for you guys to enjoy. And if you want to see future reactions that I do, you can go right below this video, click that like button, that subscribe button, every notification bell, because not only does it give you access to future reactions that I do, but it also helps my channel out a ton, and then you can go on over and support Dead Meat if you haven't already. I'll leave a link to the channel down in the description. And without any further ado, let's go.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm Chelsea Rebecca, and today we're looking at American Psycho, released in 2000. American Psycho is based on Bret Easton Ellis's 1991 novel, which was so controversial it had to be sold shrink-wrapped in Australia. Like the book, the movie has a complicated legacy. Upon its release, it was derided by many critics as being misogynist, and weirdly, some critics even went the extra step to claim the film was actually sexist towards men. Los Angeles Times reviewer Kenneth Turan noted what he believed to be the film's man-hating misandry. This may be due to the fact that American Psycho is written and directed by women, and does indeed function as a searing critique of white, wealthy masculinity. Director and co-writer Mary Herron wanted to emphasize the satirical nature of the book, an element that was lost on many readers who failed to recognize its critiques of the lead character, and an aspect of this adaptation that Bret Easton Ellis does appreciate.
I think it clarified the themes of the novel. It clarified that the novel was actually a critique of male behavior. I think a lot of people don't realize that, who haven't read the book.
Patrick Bateman is an ambitious investment banker in the 1980s, the decade that brought us Oliver Stone's Wall Street, and a quote that Bateman probably lives by.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
He's driven by achieving wealth and gaining status over his peers, with no sense of decorum or morality to speak of.
When I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think two things. One part of me wants to take her out and talk to her, be real nice and sweet and treat her right.
And what the other part of him think?
What her head would look like on a stick.
Oh. Oh, that line though, Jesus.
Complicating matters is his increasingly out-of-control bloodlust, which he takes out on the most vulnerable members of society. Herron and co-writer Guinevere Turner, who would team up again for films about Betty Page and Charlie Manson, frame the film's horror around Bateman's abuse of power and entitlement. Though he's played by a charismatic Christian Bale, and the film is, I think, deeply funny, he is not a man to be admired. He's the embodiment of success at the expense of everything and everyone around him. And also, he's kind of a dweeb.
Because he's so ridiculous, you know? He's not your ordinary kind of Hannibal Lecter kind of scary villain, because you laugh at him, you know, never with him.
Of course, his lethal combination of sociopathy and great taste in music places him in the pantheon of horror royalty. And with the film's cult classic status comes seeing Patrick Bateman everywhere, from internet memes to music videos, including Hip to Be Scared from our friends at Ice Nine Kills. Is Bateman's bloody reputation deserved, or is he more of a gecko than a wolf? Let's find out and get to the kills.
Let's do it.
The movie begins with red drops on a white background. Careful you don't want to stain your title card! Ooh. No need to bust out the lemon juice though. This blood isn't blood at all. It's bougie food at a New York City restaurant where Patrick Bateman dines and gives upvotes. Bateman is played by a 25-year-old Christian Bale, whose performance is the highlight of the film. Bale was the personal choice of director Mary Herron, who fought distributor Lionsgate as they pushed for the more marketable Critters 3 star Leonardo DiCaprio. The dispute led to Herron being being temporarily replaced by Oliver Stone. And when the movie was given back to her, it came with a significantly reduced budget. Bateman is surrounded by his Wall Street co-yuppies, who are worth mentioning because of their actors. Bryce is played by Justin Theroux, who acted in Mulholland Drive and who wrote Iron Man 2. Talk about range. McDermott is played by Josh Lucas, last seen on the kill count in The Forever Purge, and Van Patten is played by Bill Sage, who was Ramskull in 2021's Wrong Turn. Van Patten enters the scene with an amazing line.
They don't have a good bathroom to do coke in.
Oh, guess there wasn't an amazing line for him. Did I mention it's the 80s? These guys love talking business and being bigots.
He's handling a Fisher account. Lucky bastard. Lucky Jew bastard.
At first, Bateman seems like he's not as bad as his bros.
Just cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
Agreed.
But when his Platinum Amex gets rejected at his favorite bar, we get a peek inside his psychopathic psyche.
Sure do.
You're a fucking ugly bitch. I want to stab you to death and then play around with your blood.
The bartender, played by the director's sister, doesn't respond, so we're left assuming he maybe only said that in his head. Or she just ignored him because that's what women have to do sometimes to not get murdered. The next morning, Patrick narrates us through his morning routine like he's doing a piece for Vogue.
I always use an aftershave lotion with little or no alcohol, because alcohol dries your face out and makes you look older.
Bateman is all about appearances because that's all he has. There is nothing underneath his superficial surface.
There is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, some kind of abstraction, but there is no real me.
This cold, emotionless monologue is paired perfectly with his stark white apartment, which was a set built in Toronto. Production designer Gideon Ponte and set designer Jean Develle wanted the space to feel uncomfortable, so they built it clinically, decorated it sparsely, and drained it of almost all color. His place reminds me of the high contrast and hard lines of Patrick Nagel's paintings, the creator of the 80s woman you probably recognize but never knew the name for. The infamous sequence culminates in Bateman peeling off his face mask in one piece, a feat that Bale allegedly accomplished in the first take. That's harder than it sounds. Margot Robbie struggled when Vogue recreated this sequence with her in 2016. That night, Patrick and his fiancée Evelyn, played by Reese Witherspoon, have dinner with friends at what appears to be an upscale Chipotle. Evelyn introduces Patrick to her artist cousin Vanden and Vanden's boyfriend Stash, who hopes this restaurant doesn't allow any rude fucking dolls.
Rude fucking doll.
Also present is Evelyn's best friend, Courtney Rawlinson, whom Bateman lets us know he's having an affair with. Sucks for Courtney's fiancé Lewis, but Bateman doesn't care. That guy and his Center Park can fuck off right back to Silicon Valley. Bateman goes and withdraws some bills from an ATM, presumably to roll up and snort coke with. A passing woman catches his eye and a small minstrel boy strikes up a tune. Between the eerie music and black leather gloves, this scene feels like something ripped straight out of a giallo. And in fact, Herron and Turner did take inspiration from Hatchet for the Honeymoon, a Mario Bava film which was similarly told from the killer's perspective. Bateman eventually catches up to the woman and tries his best to seem non-threatening.
Hello?
No notes.
No.
Bale modeled Bateman's behavior after a Tom Cruise appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman, a quality that Herron called an intense friendliness with nothing behind the eyes. It was a fitting inspiration. In the novel, Bateman lives in the same building as Cruise and briefly shares an elevator with him. The next time we see Patrick Bateman, he's trying to get some suspicious stains out of his bed sheets, leading me to believe that he murdered that woman from the crosswalk. Sure, we can't say for certain, but spoiler alert, you could say that about all the kills in this movie.
Yes!
I had to pick a complicated one for my first kill count. On his way out, Patrick runs into an acquaintance and tries to explain away the stains.
Oh, what are those?
Oh, well, it's cranberry juice, apple.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, really? Can we go to the expert on this one?
It's not cranberry sauce.
Didn't think so. Itching to get his infidelity on, Patrick calls up Courtney and says he'll take her out to New York's hottest restaurant.
I'm thinking Dorsia.
He might have overplayed his hand though, because turns out Dorsia reservations are as difficult to get as a PS5.
Is it possible to reserve a
Here
table
it
for
comes.
2 at 8 or 8:30 perhaps?
Bateman instead opts to take his mistress out to a barcade.
And also, just like, let's just completely gloss over the fact that there's porn playing in the background there, that they had to sort of mute out of that section.
Fun. Oh wait, Barcadia? Damn, no Wizard of Oz coin pusher game. Courtney wouldn't know Pac-Man from Bateman though, cause she's so high on pills she passes out at the table. This wouldn't have happened if you'd sat her in front of House of the Dead. Just saying. The next day, Lewis thanks Bateman for taking care of his wife-to-be in a very handsy way. Before HR can get involved, the two are interrupted by the man, the myth, the Morbius, Jared Leto. This is Paul Allen, a banker that Bateman is supremely jealous of. He's got the better job, the higher standing, and the unobtainable.
I got an 8:30 res at Dorsia.
And turns out Bateman is the Ginsburg to Paul Allen's Don Draper. He doesn't
also looks almost exactly like him with that hairstyle. I mean, look at it.
Think of him at all, and mistakes Bateman for another coworker.
Hello, Halberstram. Nice tie.
Not one to be snubbed, Patrick tries to assert himself by showing off his new business card, but Paul has him beat there as well.
Look at that subtle off-white coloring. The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my God. It even has a watermark.
A small detail I absolutely love is that Paul Allen's font of choice is the same font as the title card. Comically Gothic. Also, the word acquisitions is spelled wrong on every single business card in this scene. Possibly a genuine mistake, but I love the idea that it's because no one in this office does any real work, so they can't even spell the name of their department. It's another scene that's been parodied in reference to High Heaven, but it also establishes how insecure Bateman is about his position amongst his peers. And no satire can beat Heron's sonic punchline. The sound of the cards being pulled is actually the sound of samurai swords being drawn. That night, Patrick walks home through the alleyway where Joe Chill shot his parents and sees a homeless man begging for money. This guy, Al, is played by the late Reg E. Cathey, famous for The Wire and House of Cards, and a fellow U of M graduate. Go Blue! Bateman offers Al some Reagan-era advice.
Why don't you get a job? If you're so hungry, why don't you get a job?
His disgust gives way to exceptional cruelty.
You know how bad you smell.
I hate this.
You reek of shit. Do you know that?
And eventually murder as he takes out a knife and stabs Al, the homeless guy, to death.
There's more.
I watch my husband record this show and talk about stuff like someone's flash frozen head getting shattered, or a woman wishing for a bigger butt and her butt gets so big that it explodes. Anyway, this homeless guy gets stabbed to death. And then Patrick stomps on the guy's dog and kills the dog too.
Hate it!
Merry Christmas! At a holiday party, Patrick Bateman is in a decidedly unfestive mood. A random guy helps his heart grow 3 sizes bigger, so Bateman approaches Paul Allen to see if he's learned his name yet.
Allen. Marcus.
Guess not. Bateman powers through though, and the two meet later for dinner. Paul's not a fan of the venue though.
We should have gone to Dorsia. I could have gotten us a table.
To be fair, what is this venue? I notice it every time I watch this movie. It looks like Don Pablo's operating with an emergency generator on. He drinks his disappointment away until he's inadvertently insulting the man at the other side of the table.
Evelyn. Great ass. Goes out with that loser Patrick Bateman. What a dork.
Patrick invites Paul back to his apartment, and everyone watching knows what's coming the second they see the papers on the floor. It's only more bad news for Paul when Bateman starts giving a needle drop review of Huey Lewis.
Their early work was a little too new wave for my taste. But when Sports came out in '83, I think they really came into their own. Commercially and artistically.
Paul's pretty out of it at this point, so doesn't notice Bateman gearing up with a poncho. Patrick moonwalks his way back into the splash zone and buttons his jacket up, then heads over to the stereo to kick off this movie's most infamous kill.
Hey, Paul!
Paul is hacked to death, though it's worth noting the violence is mostly off-screen. That's frequently the case with this movie, even though people imagine they see a lot more of it. Similar to my all-time favorite horror movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which actually appears later on a television screen in Patrick's apartment.
It does.
This entire sequence is iconic and by far the most referenced part of the movie. Huey Lewis himself even recreated the scene with Weird Al in 2013.
Hey, Al!
Oh no, we're
Try
out.
parodying one of my songs now, you stupid bastard.
Patrick disposes of the body and makes his way to Paul Allen's apartment, where he packs a bag that would make Marie Kondo weep. He leaves a voice message as Paul, saying he's going to London for a few days. Just be sure to make a Terminator reference, dude. Everyone knows Paul Allen is a sucker for Schwarzenegger.
Hasta la vista, baby.
The perfect crime. Yep, might as well sit back and relax to Krista Berg now, Pat. Absolutely nothing could go wrong.
There's a Mr. Donald Kimball here to see you.
Who?
Detective Donald Kimball.
Shit. Detective Donald Kimball is played by Willem Dafoe, last seen on the kill count screaming about beans in the lighthouse. He's investigating the suspicious disappearance of Paul Allen, which causes Patrick Bateman to fall apart like so many LA Noire characters.
I hope I'm not being cross-examined here.
You feel like that?
No, not really.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to press doubt on that one. With suspicion sufficiently aroused, Kimball leaves Patrick to the rest of his day, which includes working out to clips from the podcast intro and picking up sex workers. His target is a bit apprehensive about getting into a limo with a guy dressed like the Godfather, but a wad of cash convinces her to visit his apartment, where he commences with some roleplay / cover-up.
I'm Paul. My name's Paul Allen. You got that?
He also hires an escort to join them and soon has both women right where he wants them.
I've been a big Genesis fan ever since the release of their 1980 album.
My God, just murder me already. This is what people had to do before message boards. If Patrick Bateman could get into flame wars with Peter Gabriel stands on LiveJournal, many innocent lives would have been spared. It's almost a relief when they finally get to having sex, Patrick more preoccupied with his abs than his partners. Initially, this threesome earned the film an NC-17 rating, which according to Heron was not because the sex was too explicit, but because the women didn't look like they were enjoying it. Heron wanted to highlight the transactional, sometimes exploitative nature of sex work, and does a great job conveying the way Bateman commodifies people as though they were objects. Heron was ultimately forced to cut 18 seconds in order to get the rating down to an R. Later, when the ladies try to leave, Patrick stops them.
We're not through yet.
That's not something you want to hear from a guy holding a clothes hanger. No kill graphic to show yet, because the ladies leave alive, though significantly battered, victims of some off-screen sadism. God, this kill count is so fucking fun. The next day, Patrick and his pals are lounging when they're approached by Lewis.
I want to get your opinion on something. It's my business card. I decided to get a new one, too.
Patty Bates smells new cards like a shark to blood, and unable to swallow his pride, he dons his Giallo gloves for another murder. In the bathroom, Lewis misinterprets Patrick's advances as sexual.
God, Patrick. Why here?
The prospect distresses Bateman so much he forgets to murder, and to take his gloves off before washing his hands. His homophobia is another facet of his own insecurity, an aspect that the openly gay Ellis pushed farther in the novel. Patrick's not feeling much better by the time he has a second interview with Detective Kimball, by which point he's gone full Kendall Roy.
When was the last time you were with Paul Allen?
We'd gone to a new musical called Oh, Africa, Brave Africa. It was a laugh riot.
If you're having a hard time getting a read on Kimball, that's on purpose. For his scenes, Heron had Defoe deliver his lines 3 different ways. Once where he doesn't suspect Patrick at all, once where he suspects Patrick but isn't sure, and once where he knows for certain Patrick murdered Paul. Heron and editor Andrew Marcus then spliced those 3 takes together, making it harder to guess what Kimball's thinking from question to question.
When dining in New York, there's only one choice.
Dorsia.
Dorsia?
Dorsia. Dorsia.
Dorsia's nice.
The hottest, most exclusive restaurant in New York that caters only to the highest clientele. And Jared Leto.
I could have gotten us a table.
And don't settle for any of those cheap imitations either.
This is Dorsia?
Yes, dear.
Call and make your reservation today. But it won't help. Dorsia. People are dying to get in.
Try getting a reservation at Dorsia now, you fucking stupid bastard!
Patrick tries to blow off some steam by hitting another New York club. This place has everything. A makeshift fashion show, little angel boys on stilts, and communal bathrooms.
Can you keep it down? I'm trying to do drugs.
Patrick strikes up a conversation with a model, and despite an outright admission of his killy tendencies.
So what do you do?
I'm into, murders and executions mostly.
She heads back to his place with him. The next morning, Patrick plays with a lock of hair, indicating that last night was not a model date. His secretary, Jean, enters, asking if he needs help on his crossword puzzle. Ooh, what's an 8-letter word for your favorite YouTube channel? No, not bone meat, you hot idiot.
Nope.
Jean is played by Chloe Sevigny, coming fresh off an Oscar-nominated turn in Boys Don't Cry. Jean has been in a couple scenes before this, where Patrick's flirted with her in his own special way.
You look nice today.
Don't wear that outfit again.
What? I didn't hear you.
I said, do not wear that outfit again. Wear a dress, a skirt or something. And high heels.
Maybe show a little butt cheek, you know, get me hard. He knows that she's into him, but it's not until now that he asks her out, using his best Jack Nicholson impression.
Would you like to accompany me to dinner? That is, if you're not doing anything.
She accepts his invitation to Poopies on the Strip and comes over to his apartment that evening, where we see that he's got a woman's head in his freezer. Pretty sure this is the model we saw him leaving the club with, not Courtney like some people on the internet think. Their haircuts are different. Patrick's looking to add Jean to the kill count as well, but before he can go all Final Destination 3 on the back of her head, he's interrupted by a voice message that gives way to some uncharacteristic restraint and mercy.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah. I don't think I can control myself. I think if you stay, something bad will happen. I think I might hurt you.
I'm fascinated by this scene, and I think he doesn't kill her because he ultimately views her as more of a person than the sex workers and models he sleeps with. He views all women around him as objects, but he does have an internal hierarchy concerning their worth. Jean leaves, but since Patrick can't get her hair cut out of his head, he visits the same sex worker from earlier. Though their last encounter put her in the emergency room, a promise of better behavior and a big payout convinces her to give it another go. He takes her to Paul Allen's apartment and invites his friend Elizabeth over, played by co-writer Guinevere Turner. Turner is an openly gay actress and writer who had previously written, produced, and starred in 1994's Go Fish, an important early portrayal of lesbian dating life and the inspiration for good friend Kevin Smith's Chasing Amy. Patrick's a fan of representation too, but only if he can jerk off to it.
I would just like to see the two of you get it on.
After some in-jokes about Turner's alma mater,
No, not a lesbian. Why would you think I would be into that?
We went to Sarah Lawrence for one thing.
some leg rubbing, and oh yeah, drugs in the wine, he soon has the three in bed together. The sex worker deemed Christy by Bateman's role-playing tries to pull an Irish goodbye until she notices Patrick getting too rough with Elizabeth. Getting real too rough actually, since there's blood blossoming beneath the sheets. We'll count her in a second though, don't you worry. Christy kicks off a mini final girl circuit as she tries to find the exit to the apartment. She discovers a couple more bodies for the count, these two girls on their way to Nancy Thompson's high school. She doesn't have better luck behind door number 2 either, since this room's just got graffiti and another new dead body in it. She runs to the bathroom and trips onto yet another body, and this one is Elizabeth's, confirmed by Guinevere Turner herself and the fact that you can see the big hoop earrings she was wearing. You might have missed them if you were focused on Patrick trying to eat some veal. He chases Christy down the stairs by channeling his workout buddy Leatherface, and while she makes it down the staircase and very nearly out the door, she's stopped when Patrick drops his chainsaw on her like a coked up Wile E. Coyote. The next day, Patrick breaks up with Evelyn. If you're Reese Witherspoon and your boyfriend/fiance takes you to a nice restaurant, I hope you wore your waterproof mascara and arranged another ride home. Patrick then heads to an ATM. In the clearest sign that the story we're seeing might not be exactly on the up and up, the machine tells him to feed it a stray cat, and boy does he try to oblige. Lucy, look away! His attempt at more animal cruelty begets a cry of confusion from an elderly woman, whom he promptly shoots in the chest, taking his slaughter to the streets. The NYPD finally decides this guy's worth chasing now, so Patrick flees until cornered and opens fire on them. He shoots one officer and kills the remaining 3 when he blows up both cop cars with nothing but bullets. Even Patrick's a bit confused by the physics of that one. He continues the killing spree in his office building, where he headshots a security guard and lays waste to a janitor. Do they have the guy whose day off it was come back to clean up the other janitor's blood? Seems mean. He manages to make it back to his office, but since he's at 3 stars now, the helicopters are out in full force. Seeing the writing on the walls, Patrick calls up his lawyer and confesses to his various crimes.
I killed Paul Allen with an axe in the face. His body is dissolving in a bathtub in Hell's Kitchen.
Pretty sure this narcissist inflates his numbers, though.
I guess I've killed maybe 20 people, maybe 40.
Not according to me, you haven't. The second half of this monologue is shot in one unbroken close-up, and Bale does some capital A acting here.
Sure
I ate some of their brains. Oh, and I tried to cook a little. Tonight, I just had to kill a lot of people!
Convinced his killing spree has finally come to an end, he tearfully hangs up the phone. But wait a second. The next time we see Patrick, everything's fine. He's back in his apartment going about his day, and at a meeting with Detective Kimball, he's informed that his coworkers have provided him with an alibi for the night of Paul Allen's murder. They must have mistaken him for someone else. Happens a lot, apparently. When he goes back to the scene of his chainsaw killing spree, he finds the apartment clean, with the dead body closet freshly painted. The building's manager finds him and says that this was never Paul Allen's apartment, contributing to this final act's heavy sense of what the fuck. After a phone call freak out to his secretary, Patrick meets his friends for drinks looking like he just ran a marathon. At the restaurant, he spots his lawyer Carnes, played by Stephen Bogart, who is in It as Bev's rapey dad, and Slacks as the clothing line founder. Bateman confronts Carnes about his confessional phone call, but Carnes mistakes him for a coworker named Davis and laughs off his call as a joke.
You had one fatal flaw. Bateman is such a dork. Such a boring, spineless lightweight.
Perturbed, Bateman insists that his confession was all true, but Carnes says it isn't possible that anyone murdered Paul Allen.
I had dinner with Paul Allen twice in London, just 10 days ago.
There are a couple interpretations of this ending, which remains ambiguous in the movie. One is that Carnes was paid off by Patrick's father, who was earlier mentioned as practically owning the company. Under this theory, the building manager cleaned out the apartment to prevent its value from dropping. Another interpretation is that Patrick actually is the dork everyone seems to think he is, and that the murders in the film are just his violent fantasies. While most people think that Patrick's shooting spree was only in his head, it gets a little fuzzier outside of that. Since the movie's POV is restricted to Patrick's, it forces the audience to experience the movie's events how he perceives them. There's no objective reality to know. My personal interpretation is that everything in the movie basically happened. He did murder all these people. There's a reason everyone in this movie looks basically the same, and why everyone mixes each other up throughout. Every man in this movie is essentially competing to be the exact same guy. Think back to the business card scene. For all the talk of different fonts or cardstock, they all look pretty much the same. As much as the ethos of Wall Street is every man for himself, rugged individualism type stuff, the real goal here is to check off all the boxes of what this kind of man should be. He should have a beautiful wife, should live in a stylish home, should be able to keep up a conversation about contemporary culture at a dinner party, and should look and dress a certain way. Patrick represents the amorphous upper class that can get away with, well, murder. Think of how often someone in Patrick's sphere in real life gets away with something because those around him just let it happen. It's painted over, and an ad gets placed back in the paper. At a loss, Patrick returns to his boys. While at the office, a worried Jean goes through his desk. She finds his planner and is horrified to see it filled with disturbing sketches, which I think are objectively real, even if I'm wrong and the rest of the movie isn't. As the group watches a televised speech by Wall Street's favorite president, Ronald Reagan, Patrick reflects on the events of the movie, giving us one last kick-ass monologue.
My punishment continues to elude me, and I gain no deeper knowledge of myself. No new knowledge can be extracted from my telling. This confession has meant nothing.
This monologue also, in my opinion, hits hardest if the events of the film are indeed real. I think Patrick suspects and is deeply shaken by the idea that he, as a person, is so unremarkable that he could kill dozens of people and no one would really find it exceptional. He is one of many men just like him. There is no Patrick Bateman. The movie ends with Patrick trapped in the husk of his meaningless, hollow life. How many people did Patrick Bateman only maybe murder? Let's find out and get to the kills.
I love that dance. That's so good.
16 people might have died in American Psycho, but we only have Patrick's word to go off of. The victims consisted of 8 men and 8 women, giving us this pie chart. Look at that red and blue gender breakdown. The perfect roundness of the circle. The exact evenness of the
Patrick Bateman dialogue.
Oh my God. With a runtime of 102 minutes, that leaves us with a kill on average every 6.38 minutes. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to Paul Allen. From the raincoat to the song choice, this sequence is iconic, and for better or worse, is what most people picture when they think of this movie. Dull machete for lamest kill will be that woman from the crosswalk. It's done entirely off screen, and we don't even get a frozen head reveal out of it. And that's it! American Psycho came out in 2000 and has thankfully gained reevaluation over the years due to its cult following. What you may not know is that there was a sequel 2 years later starring Mila Kunis. It currently has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I will look at it in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Chelsea Rebecca. This has been The Kill Count.
On the next Kill Count.
Meet Rachel Newman, a college girl who wants to get into Quantico.
And Quantico is?
Michael, my destiny.
But college can be tough, especially when your story is changed mid-production to be a sequel to American Psycho.
Whoops. Can you believe this shit?
No, I cannot. Mila Kunis stars in this black swan of a sequel directed by Morgan Freeman.
Really? No, not really.
Sorry, Morgan J. Freeman. Different guy than Guy.
The plot thickens.
But that is William Shatner, the real William Shatner.
This is unacceptable.
Yes, it is. This week, watch Meg Griffin finally snap in American Psycho 2. Then on Friday, May 6th, watch Chelsea Rebecca kill count it while making lots of Star Trek jokes.
Come on.
I look forward to that.
Fine, tech war jokes. Only on Dead Meat.
Why don't we stop there?
Okay.
American Psycho 2 can currently be watched.
Okay, so as I said, this was my first time watching this. I had very many thoughts at the very end of this because it started to get a little weird when it said to feed the kitten to the ATM, and we didn't see the woman exactly get shot. We sort of saw her just sort of go down, and then the whole cop chase thing was a little bizarre. Because, you know, he just shot and everything just sort of blew up and it's just, that didn't really seem real. And then just running through different places and just shooting up people, like how he had that much ammo. Don't really know for sure. And then you're fully expecting for him to wake up and there'd be like police waiting for him at the bottom of his apartment, but there wasn't any. So that was a little sketchy. I think the theory of him killing everybody throughout the movie, I think that part is false. But I'm not exactly convinced that he really killed anybody, right? Because it's sort of like, you know, the story was being told through his head. The story is being told through his eyes, right? So you see like one person die and then you see like all like this like ridiculous scene or whatever. But I do think the theory is interesting though. Like the first like half of this kills before killing all the cops and everybody else was somebody cleaned it up for him, right? Somebody cleaned up the entire apartment. That's kind of what I thought when I first saw him walk into the apartment to, you know, clean everything up. How like everything was all changed, everything was just so different. And then, like, the woman who's showing off showing this apartment off to, like, another couple, their like, interaction was just like, all right, maybe you should go. Like, maybe, like, they, like, knew each other. So, maybe he did kill some of them. Maybe he didn't. I'm still trying to rack my brain around it. I'll probably get to a better conclusion upon more viewings of this movie, but this movie was pretty fantastic. I could have done without watching a dog get stomped on. That wasn't cool. I always hate seeing that. But Christian Bale's performance was absolutely masterful. And just the entire story of it was just so well done. It was so well told. And unfortunately, I stumbled upon some reviews related to the second movie because I wanted to read up on like what exactly happened. Like what exactly am I supposed to be like, you know, taken away from that ending, and I saw that the second movie was apparently pretty bad, so not really looking forward to checking out that one. So that's going to do it for me here. Before I go, though, I want to give a huge shout out to all of my $5 now supporters on Patreon: Marvin Espinoza, Cruising, Wolverine 310, Lauren Davenport, Castor Cronage, Amber K, Raymond Bright, Joshua Tees, Multi-Disturb 666, and Chris Curtis. And if you too like to have your name read at each and every one of my videos, plus many other fun goodies, maybe you react to a past kill count or two, please head on over to patreon.com/GDMReactor. The link will be right there. And in the description, you can right below this video, click that join button there, or head right over my channel page and click that join button there. And with that being said, comment down below, let me know what do you think happened in this movie. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Also want to see patch reaction I've done to other Dead Meat videos. Got a nice playlist right over there full of them for you. Share this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, ring notification bell because I put new videos every single day. And I'll see you guys next time.